But you can see that over time that went down to 2%. It was very lean year in 2021. You were just barely breaking even in that year. So that, and these carry down, you can see these carry down into the balance sheet as well. Now, this common size in the balance sheet, this is always expressed as a proportion of your total revenues. So right here, you can see 15%. Your accounts receivable has been 15 to 10 to back to 14. It's 15% of your total assets is tied up in patient accounts receivable. Um, and you can look across at your gross plant and equipment, for example, and your gross plant and equipment. Let me go over. Gross plant and equipment is varying between 96 to over 100%. So that's your gross. Let's look at your net plant and equipment after depreciation. So you can see your net plant and equipment has been 74. Oh, it jumped up to 79 that year. Now, one of the things that I want you to notice is there is a case that goes with this, and you can read through the case for some clues. But there's some things that you can start to read without even looking at ratios, just looking at these percentage changes, which are pre-computed for you. You can kind of see that something definitely happened this year because you went from 74% of all your assets being tied up in your plant and equipment to 79. That's a 5% increase, which tells me that I probably went out and bought something big in 2020 because suddenly you can see it right there. And if we go over to the numbers, you can see right there in the gross plant and equipment, it went from 47 up to 55. So there was that big jump there. So you definitely bought something big in these across these 2 years actually, because it goes bump up and then bump up again. So all of this so far, that's all given to you. So this all gives you a background for your balance sheet, your income statement, a little bit about reading the trends, how to read the trends in those statements. And then you've got your financial and operating ratios down below. Now, this assignment will be about explaining several financial ratios. You might be assigned them or you might choose them. But what we're going to do is we're going to use the deductible ratio. Obviously, that means deductible ratio is not one of the ones that you'll see in the assignment. Now, the goal of the assignment is to explain the ratio, kind of to blow up the ratio and kind of explain everything that's going on around the ratio, to explain why it's moving, why it's getting bigger or smaller, and so forth. Now, down below, now in this red border area, this is my way of saying this is what you'll see in the video. This will not be in your worksheet. This is what I'm going to show you how to do. So let's start with a clear slate so you can see every step of the way. I'm just going to delete everything there. There. And there's a graph there that'll probably be very confused. We'll delete the graph. And we've got a clean slate. So let's start with the actual ratio itself. We're going to talk about deductible ratio, so we're just going to borrow the text that's up here already. Deductible ratio. There, we've already gotten started. So what's our deductible ratio? So I'm calling this as a mini table because this is going to go in your document. This will be an important part of the little document that you generate for each ratio. So the deductible ratio, and we know that the numbers are already computed above, so we're not going to have to recompute that, but there they are right there. 0.14, and we can copy that across. This is all I'm doing now. Copy that across right there. So we've got our deductible ratio showing, well, that's your movement. But the thing is, where does that deductible ratio come from? What goes into it? This is where you can go back up here and look at the deductible ratio. Look at I'm just hitting F2 there. If you look at the formula, it's D57 divided by D52. Remember those numbers, D57 and D52. You come down here, and we're just going to say equals D57 and then equals D52. And I'm going to copy those formulas over here. And I didn't really know what was in D57 or what was in D52. but I just put those formulas there and I see the numbers, but then I just copied it over here because if you look there, it's copying from the B column, and that B column has the titles. So this is a long way of showing you that this deductible ratio right here is made up of these deductions right there, the 4.34, blah, 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 divided by your gross patient revenue. And just to prove that to you, we'll just recompute it. Look at this, 4 point something divided by 3, and there's your 0.13, which would round up to 0.14. So that's where you get your deductible ratio. And we can copy these across as well. So you can see the numbers from year to year, see them going up and down. Now, one of the first things you'll want to do is you'll want to look at the percentage change for the ratio itself and for each one of the components. One of the reasons for that is anytime there's a ratio, and ratio just means something divided by something else. And here, I'll even change that so we have the formula right in front of us, so we don't forget what the formula is. So anytime we have a ratio, it's this divided by that. Now, if the ratio changes over time and it seems to go up, is it because this part, the numerator, went up, or is it because this part, the denominator, went down? An easy way to figure that out is to look at the percentage change. Now, we already have those columns way up there somewhere, but I'm going to redo them here because what we're trying to do in the mini table is trying to create one little square kind of area where all the important numbers are in one little spot. So the reason we're not going spreading out this way, horizontal, is it just starts to be hard to put in the document. So what we're going to do here is we're going to look at percent change in each one of these ratios, or each one of these numbers. So to do that, first I'll bring the headings down with me. So I'm going to look at the, whoops, sorry about that. I'm going to look at the deductible ratio, and then I'll look at the deductions and the gross patient revenue. So there's, I don't know what the year before that was, so I can't compute it for 2018, but for 2019, the percent change is always going to be current year minus previous year, and parentheses, and you can see the formula right there, divided by the previous year. So there's my percent change. And if you want, let's make it look like a percent change as well. So we will format that cell, the number, and we'll make it look like a percent. And we don't need decimal points there. So there we go. So you can see that this ratio went down. That's the swing from 0.14 to 0.12 is a 13% drop. And we can copy that formula across. And you can see that it goes down, it kind of stays even, and then it goes up a lot, 60%. And you can see it right there. It goes from 12 to 20, which is a big increase. How much of an increase? It's a 60% increase. So now you're starting to see that there's a story here. And the first part of the story is, okay, so what caused that increase? So let's look at the next rows below it and do the same percent change. That, whoops, sorry about that, equals current year minus previous year, there, divided by previous year. And it's 10% drop, and we'll copy that across, and then we'll copy that down. So in that year where the big change happened, what happened to this, the deductions, the numerator and denominator? If you're going across, there's your answer right there. I'm zooming in a little bit to help it. You see, the answer is there's a gigantic increase, an 86% increase in your deductions from 2020 to 2021. And you can see it right there. It actually more than doubled, well, almost doubled. It went from like 4 to 7.5. So that's a gigantic increase. The patient revenue did go up a little bit. It went up, what, 16%? But that 16% was nowhere near enough, fast enough to fight the big increase in your total deductions.